Welcome to Emily Kate Made This. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Emily Kate Made This. This is primarily a knitting podcast, but I also talk about sewing and some other crafty bits here and there. So welcome back to any of my returning viewers, and a big hello to anybody new if this is your first time watching. So let's begin. I realise that every podcast I start with so we'll just keep going with that. So today I am wearing, as you might recognise from the multiples of other people's projects, this is my Ranunculus by Café Midori. It was about my third jumper, I think, that I made. It's knit in, it's a really rubbish yarn, I'll be honest. It was some stash that my mum was given, and then she gave it on to me because she didn't know what to do with it, and I just started knitting, so I didn't really know anything about specific wools, nice wools. So this is actually an acrylic wool blend, and it was horrendous to knit with. I hated it. I remember casting on and thinking, this feels so disgusting in my hands. What is this? Apparently that's the acrylic, now that I've listened to other people who say you can feel the acrylic. I didn't know what that meant, but if it feels anything like knitting this, it was awful. And I remember that it looked so small and tiny, and I thought, I'm just going to rip this out, this is horrible. And then I thought, no, I need the practice. I can just give it to my friend, she has a child, it looks tiny, I'll give it to them. But then when I finished it and I washed it, it's so nice and soft and fluffy, and I wear this all the time. This is probably the most worn knitted item that I have. So I'm not happy with the yarn, but like the knowledge that it's made of plastic essentially, but I really, really love the finished item. I'll try and get closer so you can see. This, if you recall from my previous podcast, I think it was number 4, I mentioned that I'd made one before and that I was one off on every single eyelet, so you can see it here, but so I won't go too much into detail about the pattern because I've already talked about it and multiple people have talked about it. But this one I did with the wide-necked neck option. There's 2 options, and I haven't done the regular neck yet, but I have that in the plans, in the works. So I'll try that. I think I used the recommended needles. I think I did a 5.5 maybe for the neck and a 6 for the rest of it. And it's a DK weight yarn. So I didn't do what's recommended. I think it's a mohair and fingering weight. This was a DK. I just knit it to pattern. And ta-da, here it is. Sorry if I keep looking above you, it's because the screen is there and I'm looking at myself and the pattern as I think about it. So that's what I'm wearing, and yes, I'm in love, I love it very much, even if it is made of plastic. Acrylic. So the exciting news is that I have finished 2, not 1, but 2 projects today. I've already got a dry throat, just the excitement of the whole thing. So I'll start with my Humlebi Shawl. I know, I finished, I'm so excited. You may have been there through the trials and tribulations of my woes with this shawl, but it is done. So I will insert some pictures, maybe some video, but here it is. So the little bees, and actually that's the exact same pattern as on here. So it is a gorgeous gorgeous shawl by Fibre Tales. I have been watching her podcast for the last year or so, roughly. I watched them all. As soon as I found one when I started knitting, I then watched all of them back to back. And so I've caught up now. And I saw this on her, I think it's her, no, it's not her latest. Anyway, I saw it on her podcast and I thought, oh my god, I need that, I need it. And usually I think that about patterns that I see and then I either forget or I just add them to my queue on Ravelry. But this was like immediate, I need this and I need it now. So I wanted to buy the kit that it came with, or didn't come with, but she did a collaboration with, I think it's the Blue Rabbit House and Woolen Twine. Sorry if I got that wrong. But basically the kit was sold out. But Woolen Twine is in Germany, in Hamburg, and I thought, oh, I can easily get the yarn. But she hadn't done an update, and the colour I wanted wasn't there. So I searched high and low for different options, and eventually came across the John Arbon Devonia, which is this one, and it's in Amber Blaze colour. It's a DK, and it is, I don't have my label, it's a blue-faced Leicester. There's 3 in there. Sorry, I'll link it down below. But I think I was fooled slightly. I've watched several people who have made this since, and they all said, it took me like 3 days, it took me a week, I just flew off my needles, it was so easy. And I thought, oh great, that would be fantastic. I've never knitted a shawl, so it'll be really easy. And then I realised they are way faster knitters than me. And this took me, I'm not 100% sure because there was a break where I focused on my Maja Cardigan and my Felix pullover that I talked about in my last episode. But it took me probably 2 weeks of knitting, maybe 3 weeks of toing and throwing. So if you watch my last episode, you'll see where I talked about the mistake that I made and I had to undo it, and it was right at the bottom. It was at the beginning. So the cast on is a picot edge cast on, and it took me quite a while to get my head around it, and then once I did, it was actually easy enough. But it took me so long, it took me about 3 days to cast it on, or 3 evenings to cast it on, just because of the hand gesture I had to do. My hands have repetitive strain from various things, all beginning with Snake. If anyone had a Nokia phone when they were in the 2000s, if you remember Snake, I used to play that all the time, and I got repetitive strain in both my thumbs and from texting. And then I worked in an office and I got repetitive strain up here. So knitting, it doesn't take long until it triggers that. So basically the cast on took me ages. Then I went wrong. There's this long spine that goes up the whole, oh gosh, this spine, and I basically just went off course. I think it ended up going like this. So I had to unpick all the way down, but just this little section here. I think I saved it. I mean, I don't think anyone's really going to notice. If you looked at it last week, yeah, it's here. Don't think I need to point that out, it's quite obvious, but in the whole shawl, I don't think anyone's going to notice. So after I vaguely succeeded in pulling it down, getting yarn spaghetti, re-knitting things back into pattern and realigning the spine, I then continued on. But yeah, going backwards and forwards on knitting 400 odd or 300 and something, purling, knitting, purling, it took me so long. It does decrease, like it gets smaller as you go up, but I didn't feel like it. So although I love the shawl and I loved picking out the yarn and I loved the idea of it, actually knitting it was quite stressful. The bees are done and they've got like a bobble and it's kind of like a cable for the wing, and I think I practiced once on a little swatch but it didn't look great. I actually showed that to you also, I think probably episode 3 or 4. It didn't look right, but when I had to do it for all the bees all at once, because you do all of them all at the same time, I thought, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I'm just going to go with it. So I kept going, and then it didn't look right, but I just kept going. It was right. And then you have to leave all these dropped stitches, and that panicked me, so I had all these stitch markers. I'll try and insert a video or a picture. I had every single stitch marker that I own on this shawl because I had everything separated into tens so that I could easily count where I was, and then I had all of them for these bees. It just looked ridiculous. But then once they were done and the lace was done, and then it was just plain old garter, which theoretically is fine, but it was so boring. But it's done, and I'm very happy with the result. I think I'm kind of like a half, what is it? You're a project, no, what is it? A project knitter or a process knitter. Something like that. Like, I do enjoy knitting, but I definitely am doing it for the finished item. I don't enjoy things that languish and take ages just because I enjoy every stitch. I can enjoy every stitch, but on multiple projects that I get finished. Yeah, it's probably not a healthy mindset, but oh well. So yeah, this is my Humlebi. I'm very much in love. Took it out for a spin yesterday. I did block it, but I don't have any blocking mats or anything, so although you're supposed to pull out these individual, will it focus? They're like these individual picot edge here. Don't think it's showing. So if you had blocking mats, you could pin them out and they would really stick out and look beautiful. But I just had this on my bathroom floor, and it dried in less than 12 hours, and yeah, I just wore it. I mean, it's going to be screwed up around my neck, so it doesn't really need beautiful blocking. So that is my first finished object that I'm very happy with. And I'm going to take a sip of tea because my throat is dry already. My second basically finished object is my Maja cardigan. I steeked it yesterday, and I did the button band for it yesterday, but in all my excitement for steeking, I just entirely forgot that buttons were required. So there's no buttons. I don't have any buttons for it, and that does make the shape of it a bit strange. Like, the steeking is quite, what do I want to say, like thick? I don't know. It goes it's quite heavy, so it leans open. Also, although I'm very happy with it, I'm so proud of myself that I made it, that I was physically capable of doing almost a full colourwork sweater. I'm a bit disappointed in the size of it. So you may recall that I was worried that the arms were too small and I'd never get them on. So I think I did like a 3.75 cuff and 4.5 on the arms, but it was quite tight, so then I panicked. So on the body I did the colourwork in a 5mm needle, on a 5mm needle, and then the blue section on 4.5, because with my socks I tend to be too tight with colourwork, so I went up a bit, and I think that may have ruined it a little bit. I will show you, but I might have to insert pictures. Ta-da! So here's my baby, my finished piece. So I'll put it on so you can see what I mean. But basically, I am guilty of not being a swatcher. I hate swatching. I hate it. And so if I had swatched, I would have realised that the yarn, I've got my wedding ring stuck in this, the yarn would actually get bigger, quite a bit bigger, and then it would have been the correct gauge that the pattern suggests, but no, I didn't. So cozy. So as you may notice, this is pretty large. I have done the size small, and I actually thought I'd have to go up to a medium because this would never fit because the arms were so tight. Actually, arms are perfectly fine. I'm not sure I'd fit like another jumper under here, but the arms are fine. But the arms end like there. Like my armpit is actually here and the armpit ends down here. And it will go over like so. But yeah, it's just too big here basically. And I think it's my fault because the pattern says, it's a free pattern, so I feel safe enough to talk about it. The pattern says that the gauge should be 18 stitches, and I did do a measuring. I did measure it for how many stitches I had before I blocked it. So on my colourwork section before it was 22 stitches, and then my stockinette was 20, and then afterwards my stockinette was 18, so it was fine if I just done everything on the same and the correct needles. But my colourwork is 20 stitches, so it is bigger than it would have been if I just did the right needles that it recommended. But after my sock debacles of never fitting over my heels, I assumed, oh, I must be the same as other people, that my colourwork is tighter. So apparently it's not tighter when I do an actual garment, but hey ho. Lesson learned. I think it'll still be fine because when I have a jumper, as long as the jumper fits in the armholes, sleeves, then it'll be fine, and I'll have a scarf and probably a coat. Like it doesn't really matter. But going forward with my other yoked sweaters, and I have many in the pipelines, I will just do the same needle size through the whole thing, except for the cuffs and collars and stuff. I also learned a new technique. I have been doing colourwork in one hand is Norwegian and the other hand is English style, so I do say the beigey colour in this hand and the blue in this hand and just swap. But then I noticed this hand was always hurting so much, and it was the same when I was doing my purl stitches backwards and forwards for the short rows. So I then decided to try and do the colourwork holding both of the strands in this hand, which I had tried before when I was a complete English style knitter, and I just couldn't get my head around knitting from my left hand. It didn't no. But now that I've been knitting so much with my left hand, or holding the yarn in my left hand, I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. But I only started that like here. So after doing all the colourwork here and this section, I then started about here, and yeah, it actually really did help my hand. So this one didn't hurt nearly, I was going to say nearly enough. No, not at all, basically. Excellent use of English. Anyway, I think that also may have changed my gauge slightly in that I'm basically knitting the same, and I'm not pulling differently on my tension with my right hand as with my left, if that makes sense. So overall, I'm very happy with it. It's very warm, and that was the purpose. But I'm a little bit sad that It's so big. But I don't have any intentions of making another one anytime soon. I have way too many. My next colourwork yokes and all the things, all the jumpers. So I will take this off because it's very toasty warm, but I'll just show you quickly up close. And the buttonholes are enormous, and I definitely misplaced this very top one, which is like 2 stitches away. That was a total fail. So maybe I just won't be using that one. And I need to get some buttons. I wanted to get some Norwegian pewter buttons, but I can only find them coming from Norway. Shock. So not sure. I'm still very confused on if I can get post from Norway to Germany, or if I have to pay import duties and taxes. I don't understand. It's not Europe, but they do have like an agreement. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that. Sorry. So that is my finished object, almost basically 99% done. And the weather has definitely cooled, and I think on Friday it's going to be about 9 degrees Celsius, so I can take this bad boy out for a spin. I forgot to mention, with my Maja cardigan, the steeking. That was like the most exciting part of the whole process, and I didn't even talk about it. So let's add some B-roll here. I steeked it, obviously. So up the center, the pattern says to do 2 purl stitches, and I thought, ooh, that's not enough stitches to help stop it from unraveling. So I added 5 so that I could cut up the center, and so everything else is in stock and knit stitch, and then the center is in purl. And then when I finished it all, and I went online, and actually originally I looked at the pattern and it said use your sewing machine to do a zigzag stitch just on the purl bumps, but that made me nervous because I have, if you watch, I think it's my sewing, maybe it's my third, I don't know, one of my episodes, I talk about my knickers that I sewed, and the elastic, just like the zigzag stitch on it, when it stretched, went bing. And I don't know why, because if you look it up, it's use a zigzag stitch on stretchy fabrics, and that's how it works. You don't do a straight stitch, you do a zigzag, and yet my zigzag went boing and came undone. And I thought that would be horrendous if that happened on my cardigan. Theoretically, it's Lett Lopi, so it's quite a sticky yarn, so it would actually hold together, most likely, but just in theory it could come undone, and that would stress me out. I also like the idea of the crochet edge because it looks more stable, and so I decided I would go with the crochet edge. But when you go on YouTube and you look up how to do it, everyone says, oh, you put the crochet hook through the 2 like knit stitch legs, but I didn't have knit stitch legs because they were purl bumps, and nowhere had purl bumps and the crochet edge. So that was stressful, but I did find, and if I remember I'll link it down below, but there was a woman from Iceland, and I think her name was Raga something. She did one where there's just one singular purl, and on either side on the knit stitches she did this crochet reinforcement. So I just went with that and did it that way, and then cut up, and at some point it will felt, but I am considering adding in a ribbon because it just looks a bit too much. I've blocked the whole cardigan, but then after you block it, then you do the steek, so the button band hasn't been blocked yet. But that's the inside, and that's where I cut it, and yeah, there's just a lot of fabric, and yes, theoretically it will felt, but I'm thinking I might add a ribbon. I don't know how yet. There's my provisional. I keep calling it provisional. There's my reinforcement. So I will probably block this again because the button band feels completely different to the rest of it. And that is annoying. And also I didn't do a fantastic job at the picking up of stitches. It's not terrible and it is equal. I have the same amount on both sides, but on one of them I don't think I picked it up very well. I think it's this one. It just kind of goes off like a ski slope. Looks a bit strange. And I'm hoping with blocking I can just pull it down a bit and rearrange it slightly, and then it will work. And with the buttons it should just hide anything else. So the steeking was very fun. I thought I would be very nervous, but I was just really excited, like birthday cakes coming kind of excitement. Almost didn't film it because I thought this is very important, I have to concentrate. But then I also thought, but I want to talk about it, I want to share it. Which is ironic because I completely forgot to share that with you. So that one's steeked. I also have a different sweater that my mum made that I'll show you in the not so distant future. And I want to do the pattern myself and turn it into a cardigan, so I'll have like matchy, but one that I made and one that she made, and mine will be a cardigan, so I'll steek it. Haven't decided if I'll do the same. I think either I'll just do the one stitch, the one purl, and do this method so I don't have so many edges, or I'll do it like the YouTube channels where they have 3 or 5 knit stitches and then do it their method. That's you, and that's you. So I don't have any works in progress because I spent all my time on these guys. I technically have one. It's still the Easter bunny socks, but they haven't moved, they haven't done anything, so they don't really count. It's languishing. I feel like, oh, Easter's not for months, I'll just finish it near the time. But I do have some plans. Now, I'm going to be one of those annoying people that talk about it and then go, but I'm not going to show you and I'm not going to talk about it. But basically that, I have a jumper pattern that I have in my mind. I haven't designed it, it's just a combination of 2 or 3 other people's patterns, but I want to make it and then be like, ta-da! So it's my Christmas jumper, hence the Christmas, isn't it cute? Christmas bag. I'm feeling so Christmassy, guys, so Christmassy. I don't know why. As soon as it got cold, or colder, I was like, ah, mince pies and Christmas. So naturally, I need to start a Christmas pullover, like now. So I'm basing it, hopefully, on the Felix, because I just like the design that comes down on the shoulders. But the problem is that when I did it in my Lett Lopi, the gauge was about 17, and I measured it and thought, oh cool, because the gauge of this is about 17, so that'll work. But actually the gauge of the pattern is like 14, which I didn't get. But then when I washed it and blocked it, the gauge completely changed. So it was about 15-ish. So I have no idea if this sweater is going to come out like minuscule or too big. But we'll see. So I really don't like buying drops yarn because I'm concerned about not knowing where the yarn comes from, like where the wool comes from. I don't know their ethics, but equally I don't have a huge income, so to buy all the beautiful yarn for a Christmas jumper that will be worn for like 3 or 4 weeks of the whole year, it just wasn't worth investing over £100. Oh, £100? €100. I haven't lived in the UK for like 10, 15 years. Not sure why I'm saying pounds. So I bought Drops Alaska for this project. And you won't be surprised by the colours. I wanted more of a like green, like brighter green, but that's the only one they had, and it goes. So that's what you're gonna get so far. There's one more. So hopefully in 2 weeks or so when I record again, I will either, I'm not going to say I would have finished, but I should probably have made quite a dent in it. So maybe I'll show you, maybe I won't. But I'm feeling Christmassy, so the Christmas jumper is going to happen. I also purchased some more of the onion knits DK because I had a little bit left over of the blue from my socks that I made, the biscuit socks. And I thought I need some kind of contrast heel and toe and maybe cuff, and then I could get another pair out. So I got some white to go with that. But either there'll be a present for someone or there'll just be a sock that I knit on and maybe wear myself. So that is acquisitions, kind of. I'm not really a big acquisitions person, but I have some, so there they are. And future cast-ons imminently, probably when I turn the camera off. I did mention before, but I think I'm going to go with the Jennifer Steingas Wintersoll pullover or sweater, jumper. I'll insert a picture here. I have my yarn. I think I showed it to you a few episodes ago. So it's going to be grey and it's going to have a nice little yoke here that I am slightly changing up. But I'll surprise you with that one as well, maybe next week. You start off with the yoke and then you, I think, do the top and then you do the bottom. It's a different construction to how I've done anything before. So we'll see how that goes. But hopefully I will have made a dent in that at least, so I can show you that next time. So, anything else? No, I think that's everything. If you want to hear a little bit of life stuff, there's not very much, but stick around. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. And let me know what you're knitting in the comments. Are you planning any Christmas jumpers? Any Christmas projects? I am very, very much getting the Christmas spirit, so please do tell. And anyone sticking around, gosh that was loud, sorry. Yeah, not a huge amount of news, but I'm actually planning on making some mince pies. Yes, this is the seriousness of my Christmas spirit. Mince pies in October. I realised last year that I try and cram in all my Christmas baking into like the week or 2 weeks around Christmas, and I don't actually eat that many sweet things or bready things anyway, and then I try and eat it all at the same time, all in this short space, and then you make it, you just want one, and then you have like 12 mince pies or whatever it is, and there's just so much to eat. So I've decided this year I'm going to spread it out over time. So mince pies will be made, and gingerbread cookies will be made, but not yet, not until the mince pies. Might make a Christmas cake, not sure. But basically my life plans are baking and Christmas knitting. I'm thinking of making some knitted Christmas baubles. I might make some for my family, but I'm not sure. I'm a little bit nervous about posting to the UK because things get stuck in customs and the whole petrol crisis and the whole Brexit rubbish. And my mum sent me some post I almost said last year, but it took 6 months to get to me. 6 months. It got lost in the post, but actually they just didn't know what to do with it, and they said, oh, you didn't send in these forms. So we sent some forms in again, and then nothing, and then sent some, they replied, oh no, you didn't send the forms. We basically went backwards and forwards with this, and when it arrived, all of the forms were all in the package and nothing had been touched or opened, but they'd told us, oh, you can't send what you've sent, it's illegal. It was like knitting pattern, a knitted cat, and I think some chocolate. But yeah, it's very stressful. The idea of posting to the UK is stressful. So I'm not sure. I'm also nervous if I put the time and energy into handmade knitted things and then they lose it or actually lose it, that would be really devastating. So I'm not sure yet. But if anyone has any Christmas ball pattern words, all I want to say is recipe, and I can't think of the word I actually want. Basically, I want to knit some Christmas baubles. If you have a recipe for one, I want something kind of funny, like dinosaurs with Christmas hats or sheep with Christmas hats, something amusing. That would be fun. And I also have some sewing thoughts, but I'm not sure how to do them. I have an apron that's really beautiful and I want to turn it into a skirt, but I can't quite figure out how to make it into one because the back panel is missing, obviously, because it's an apron. It's just a pinny, like a lower part, not the top section. And I don't want it to look like I sewed a pinny to a skirt. I want it to look like a skirt. So I'm not sure how to go about it. But yeah, we'll see. I have been talking and talking for so long now. So I will wrap this up. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like so that other people will be able to see my videos. And subscribe if you like. And I will see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.